What's going on, everyone? So, welcome to my latest live stream. Unfortunately, I am not joined with Marv and Sergey. They are both busy tonight, but I did make a point to have a live stream tonight. It was kind of up in the air because I was traveling earlier today, but I managed to find time, and here we are at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time doing a live stream. So, I am very much looking forward to talking to all of you guys. I hope all of your Saturdays are going really well. Let me know what you guys are up to, especially now that we are in October. Spooky season is upon us, so I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you guys. But looks like we already have a couple comments. First things first, David Pictures says, "Hey, how are you doing, David? It's been a little bit. I think we missed you the last live stream, so I hope that you're doing well. Have you been watching any movies lately? And if so, what have you been watching?" Ace Palettes says, "What's up, Ace? It's good to hear from you, man." Question: How far into Hannibal are you? Right before doing this live stream, I was actually watching Hannibal. I just finished season 1, episode 10, and I don't know if you've gotten up to that part just yet, but holy cow, it is amazing. The show just keeps on giving. It's so good. Film Kid is in the chat. He says, "Hey." As well as I watched Joker 2 today. Didn't hate it as much. Not going to go in depth because I have a full review on Letterboxd. Nice, man. I look forward to reading your review. I will say I do agree with you. I didn't hate Joker 2. I do think it's a mixed bag of a movie. I do not see all the hate personally because I'm all about ambition. I'm all about swinging for the fences. And I do think that Phillips did swing for the fences, although I will say that I kind of wish it was a different director that was tackling Joker 2. Although, to be honest with you, I don't think Joker 2 really should have existed. It'd be the equivalent of if Taxi Driver got a sequel, or Fight Club. Those are films that I just feel like don't need sequels, and I think also really dampen the ambiguity of the original. Like Joker, one of the things that I liked about it, although I will admit that there were flaws to begin with, was that you weren't quite sure what was real and what wasn't. In fact, the most recent viewing of Joker for me, I didn't think anything that we really saw on screen happened. So the fact that this sequel kind of does all that, I'm just like, okay, well, there's a lot of issues that I have with the original because of the sequel. So I don't know. I'm very curious though to hear what other people thought of Joker 2. I know that it's not really doing quite as well as the first one at the box office. So we'll see. Let's see. David Pictures. I've seen the remake of Speak No Evil, which you liked my review recently. Yes, I did. Megalopolis, Late Night with the Devil, which I wasn't a huge fan of personally, and a Russian film, Mother and Son. Oh, nice. So you've definitely been keeping up with newer stuff. Yeah, Megalopolis, man. That was a swing for the fences too, and I really wanted to like that one. I really did. Like I like Francis Ford Coppola quite a bit, but I just wasn't a big fan of that movie, unfortunately. Um, I get why you weren't a fan of Late Night with the Devil. I think I might have read your review because I think you and I were on the same page about how AI was in that movie and it just wasn't necessary. And I get that it's a smaller film, so some people might argue that AI can be utilized quite well, especially with smaller films. But I mean, independent films have used other ways to make things kind of come to life before. So it's like, why not use something else? It is a shame that how much AI is kind of taken over. All right, now with other ones. Oh, Ace Pletz. Ace Pletz says, "I've done 2 episodes of Hannibal. Dude, I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the other episodes." I don't know, man. Like once I start Hannibal, I can't get enough of it. I really can't. Like it is so good. It really is. And it's the perfect time to watch it around this time of year. Andrew Lay, good afternoon. Yes, my Sunday's been dandy. Oh, yep. Forgot that you're ahead of us. You're in New Zealand, so yeah, you're already enjoying your Sunday. It's so wild to me, like time zones, like that far ahead. Film Kid, going to watch Sound of the Lambs tomorrow for the first time. Hopefully, I like it. Dude, I love Silence of the Lambs. I watch that every Halloween for the last 3-4 years. It's a fantastic film. I hope you love it. Actually, I hope you love it, and then I think you should watch the TV show Hannibal. It's a prequel to Silence of the Lambs. Highly recommend it. Film give Taxi Driver and Fight Club are a lot better than Joker, and if they made sequels to both of those movies, it would be much more impactful to the original. Yeah. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to make the record. No, I'm not saying Joker's at the same quality as those two films. I was just using those two as an example of those two are classics, like bona fide classics that I'm glad they stand on their own. I'm glad that we haven't gotten sequels to them. Joker, the fact that when it came out 2019, it was such a success and a lot of people liked it, and a lot of people were discussing it. I think that that ambiguity really is what elevated it to where people were talking about it constantly. But the sequel, Joker 2, undoes a lot of that. So I don't think that it's going to have as much of a cultural impact as those other two films. Now, if you look at my Letterboxd, I have Joker 2 as like 3.5 out of 5, which the only reason why I have it at that is because I think the filmmaking is quite good. I do think it's more along the lines of like a 3 out of 5 movie. But Taxi Driver and Fight Club, they're 5 out of 5 movies. Like I love both of them. I think they're incredible. So I don't want you guys to think that I'm saying like, oh, Joker's at the same level as those two. I just when I think about Joker, I think that two of the biggest influences of that movie are Fight Club and Taxi Driver, and of course, King of Comedy. Ace Blitz, I'm wondering how you would rank every HBO show you've seen. Ooh, that would be a really good. That's a pretty good ranking idea, honestly. I might do that. Angela, I haven't seen Joker 2 yet, and every YouTube channel about films I subscribe to already has spoiler reviews. Yeah, that's kind of the shame of it, where people expect other people to have already seen the movie within a day or two of its release. I mean, you guys know me. I these days I'll do a review here and there for a movie, but I do think it's wild that people will release a movie review on a Thursday and then like the next day they're like, here's a spoiler review. And it's like, you got to give time for people to actually watch the movie. Like Joker 2, there's probably going to be a lot of people that aren't going to watch it opening weekend. They'll probably wait a week or two to hear what word of mouth is. Let's see. David Pictures. I was personally conflicted, to be honest, on Megalopolis. On one hand, I thought it was super ambitious, but on the other hand, it felt really messy. I'm totally going to see it again to see if it grows on me. I like this. And I'm with you. I will say that the movie did make me feel conflicted because I think that there are a lot of issues. Like, for one, I'm not a big fan of the dialogue. And I do think that although the visual presentation early on was interesting, I do think that as it went along, it did become more and more messy. And more to the point, I just also think that the overall message of the movie by the end is just so I'm trying to think of the right word. It's hopeful, but not in like a meaningful way, and more so like a way that just doesn't seem. I'm trying to think of the right word that I'm looking for with what that ending was. It just seemed overly happy, and I'm not saying like, oh, happy endings can't be good, but what I am saying is that with Megalopolis' ending, it just seemed naive, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And that's one of my issues I had with the ending. But at the same time, I also understand that Coppola has over 50 years on me. So maybe when I am 85, I'll be as hopeful as him. But, we'll see. Let's see. Film Kid says, I'm trying to convince either one of my parents to take me to go see Saturday Night. It's just I don't think my dad is not interested. My mom seemed interested, though. Yeah, I mean, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts for sure. Bootzilla, hello, Chad, and thanks for the like for Blink Twice on Letterboxd. Dude, of course. Blink Twice I quite liked. I think it's a shame it didn't do as well as I was hoping at the box office, but I'm glad that more people are catching it on demand now. Film Kid, I picked up a Blu-ray set for Apocalypse Now with the original and the Redux cut. I don't know if you've seen either cut, but what I would recommend is watching the original. I think that I've seen the final cut and I've seen the theatrical cut, and the theatrical cut's a lot better. I think the final cut, it has a couple scenes here or there that are kind of nice, but overall the theatrical cut is, in my opinion, the best version to watch. Although for other people that are in the chat, I'm curious to hear which cut you prefer of Apocalypse Now. Get the discussion going for that. Can't Articulate says, what is up? Can't Articulate is in the house. Dude, how are you doing, man? Did you finish Twin Peaks: The Return? Which, speaking of which, I have my I Am Dougie's coffee mug. I forget if you finished it or not. David Pictures, also Film Kid. I do agree they are better. It would be a total disaster if somebody made a sequel to those movies. Yes. I think that Taxi Driver in particular, one of the reasons why I keep coming back to it is because of the ambiguity of that movie. And I think that that ending of Taxi Driver especially just works on so many different levels. Like, depending on your interpretation, it could be quite hopeful or it could be a very nihilistic ending. And I love that. And Fight Club also, it's funny how Fight Club and Taxi Driver were two films that in high school I wasn't really a big fan of. Like, I knew that a lot of people in my high school loved those movies, but I didn't quite understand why. And I think that maybe I just misinterpreted those films when I was in high school. But a decade plus later, those are two films that I'm like, I get it. I get why they're beloved films, and I'm glad that they're classics at this point. Film Kid says, since I of course have to be to have an adult to go to an R-rated movie, I took my dad to go see Joker 2. Mindful he hasn't seen the original and he wasn't as fond of the sequel. I'm honestly curious with if anybody else has seen Joker 2 that hasn't seen the original, because I do think that if you were to watch Joker 2 on its own, not having seen the first one, it might be a better experience, honestly. At least that's what I would think, because I feel like if you've seen the first one, it kind of undoes a lot of that. But if you haven't seen it, you don't know that. So you're just taking it for what it is as opposed to a sequel to a film that is totally different. Angela, is it fair to say Joker 1 was inspired by Taxi Driver and Can Comedy, while Joker 2 by Singing in the Rain and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Haven't seen either of these, though. I've seen a couple people say One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I've also seen some people say Chicago. And I would say Chicago is probably a little bit closer as to what the movie was borrowing from. But in some ways, because it's also a courtroom movie, it also in some ways feels like, I'm trying to think of a courtroom movie that it feels like. I can't think off the top of my head as to what it feels like, but it does feel like a melding of like other movies that you've seen, but it's just a lot lesser version of those other ones, unfortunately. Film Kid, something with Fight Club and Taxi Driver. Did you have her if they made a sequel to Whiplash and they ruined the reputation of the original? Yeah, Whiplash, I would not want to see a sequel to either. Like Whiplash, that ending is as impactful as it is because it stands on its own. Like, could you imagine if they did a sequel like a year later to see what Andrew Neiman like was up to? Like, I like the implications of that film without spoiling anything. I like the implications of that film as opposed to us, being spoon fed what it's supposed to mean. Yeah. David Pictures, yeah, I share that sentiment with the ending since it was an allegory in America, clearly with all the political references. It just felt like it resolves too nicely, too quickly. Yeah, no, for sure. Ace Paulette's, Chad, how do you feel about Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini's performance? Because I think it's pretty incredible. I think James Gandolfini did an incredible job. I especially think that it's amazing the fact that this actor is someone that in real life was known to be like really, really nice, and how many people did not, see him as this like tough guy. But then as soon as he, had it where the cameras were filming him and everything, he was able to just transform himself into this, brutal, misogynistic individual. And it's like that's just the power of acting. Like he did such a great job as Tony Soprano. Like you guys know how I feel about The Sopranos, where I think it's a good show. I respect it quite a bit, but that is definitely the one thing that hugely stands out. Like I see why he won a lot of awards, and I see that, as to why he is the standout of that show. Film Kid, same thing like Fight Club and Taxi Driver. They made. Oh, my bad. I already looked at that. Let's see. Joseph Guerrero is in the chat. Joe, hi. Good evening, all. Joseph, good to hear from you, man. Hope you're doing well, especially after that Phillies loss. Yikes. Blowing a 1-0 lead, and then in the seventh inning. Yikes. It's funny, when I was driving home and I saw that they lost, I was like, how did they lose? But I saw the seventh inning. That was when things kind of fell apart. Godzilla, I haven't seen the final cut yet. Have seen Redux and, of course, theatrical. I kind of feel like seeing final cut is unnecessary after seeing those two. Yes. So from what I understand, I haven't seen the Redux. So from what I understand, Coppola wanted the extra footage, so he made the Redux cut. But then years and years later, he was like, you know what? It is kind of bloated, so I'm going to cut some of the stuff out from the Redux, and I'm just going to trim it down, and that's what the final cut is. So the final cut's technically his preferred version, but I only saw the final cut once, and I wasn't a big fan of it because there's an entire scene that takes place at this French plantation. And I understand what he's going for, but I think that it halts the pacing majorly. Like it ruins it majorly. And I think that when you cut that out, it flows so much better, like in the theatrical cut. Film Kid, I was telling my dad today that I need to show him There Will Be Blood. Yes, There Will Be Blood is in my top four. That is incredible film, masterpiece. There Will Be Blood and Punch Drunk Love are the only Paul Thomas Anderson movies I've seen them. Can you give me two more to watch? Yes. So if you've only seen those two, I would highly recommend actually his two films that came before. So The Master came after those two films, and I think The Master is a masterpiece. But I think that you should check out what's called Boogie Nights and Magnolia. Those two films are his directing flair in those two instances were really riffing on Martin Scorsese, especially Goodfellas. But I have to say, and I know that I've said this on the channel, I know it's a hot take, but I think that it's better than Goodfellas. I think that Boogie Nights is fantastic, and I really do think that that's a great starting point with Paul Thomas Anderson. So I think you should check out that. And then Magnolia works as a companion piece because they're two films that are ensemble pieces, and they have a lot of the same actors too. But they're both really great. Can't articulate says, "Yeah, I finished The Return. It was good, dude. I'm glad that you liked it. Wasn't that ending wild? Like, holy cow!" Other comments. Film Kid, not gonna lie, even though my favorite scene in Joker 2 was Arthur's closing statement, it's kind of funny though that one of the best scenes was the opening animation. Yeah, the opening animation I loved, and I'm not gonna lie, the first like 15 minutes, I was suiting up for a great film. Like that animation and then the prison scene where the camera is, I think the entire scene wasn't a long take, but there was a minute or two of a long take where the camera was just swooping in and out of like all these different cells just to get an idea of the atmosphere of what this prison feels like. And I genuinely loved it. Like I was like, holy cow, this is really good. And then the rest of the movie continued, and as it progressed, I felt like it kind of got worse and worse. But I am with you, Film Kid. I am with you. The View with Drew is in the chat. Hey everyone, what's up? View with Drew, I hope that you're doing well. I am following you, and I am glad that you're doing a bunch of reviews specifically for superhero related stuff. That's always good to hear and see, of course. Film Kid, also, I'm so pumped because the John Wick re-release is going to be on my birthday, and then a week later is the Boondock Saints re-release. That's awesome, man. Yeah, honestly, John Wick, I was gonna play around with possibly seeing it in theaters because I saw that in theaters 10 years ago. Like I'll never forget seeing that with one of my best friends. Like we both didn't know what John Wick was, but I was like, dude, we got to check this out. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, it's got really good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. It's supposed to be a really good action film. And we both saw it and we were like, yo, that was really good. And then all these sequels came out and, so we got the John Wick franchise. So yeah, I would highly recommend seeing John Wick in theaters. But the only problem is it's not included with A-list, AMC A-list. I'm not going to see it. But Boondock Saints, it's going to be a hot take, but I'm actually not a fan of that movie. I know that it's a cult classic, and I definitely respect it, but it's a hot take. But I'm just not a fan of that movie. All right. Oh, Andrew Lay. Oh no, Chicago. I hate that movie. It winning Best Picture while Catch Me If You Can wasn't even nominated is astounding to me. I will top you with that. I think the fact that Chicago won Best Picture and was nominated over something like Road to Perdition is a travesty. Road to Perdition got a bunch of Oscar nominations that year, but it didn't get a Best Director or a Best Picture nomination. I think it's a shame. I can see why some people might not love that movie because it is slow paced. So there's that. But I love Road to Perdition. And Catch Me If You Can, I do quite like. I think it is a really, really good film. So yeah, I respect Chicago to an extent, but I'm not really a fan of it. In fact, it's funny. The first time I saw Chicago, I liked it, and I picked up the Blu-ray, and I remember that I got like 25 minutes into the Blu-ray, and I was like, I can't finish this, and I ended up returning it to Amazon. This was like 6 years ago, but yeah, I think we're on the same page. Ace Plus, I actually think the strongest part of The Sopranos is the acting. The overall cast is so good. Yeah, the cast is what really makes that show. Like they all do such a great job with the characters. Film Kid chat, since I know how much you love Twin Peaks, I've only seen the pilot episode, which is like its own mini movie. Should I finish the show? Yes. Just know that season two, the middle part, it's very flabby. It's the second season is a mess. But I do think the first couple episodes of season 2 and the ending episodes, like the last 2 episodes of season 2, are great and are very important for what you'll see with Twin Peaks: The Return. Film Kid, I love the theatrical cut of Apocalypse Now, but I want to wait a couple years to rewatch it. That's fair. That was the same case with me. Apocalypse Now, I think I first saw it in 2014, and I think that the second time I saw it was in my film class the following year. I think it was like late 2015, if I recall correctly. But yeah, I mean, Apocalypse Now, you have to be in the right mindset for that film because it's a meditative, philosophical type film. So I get that. Bootilla, I recommend Phantom Thread 2 at Film Kid. Yeah, Phantom Thread was really, really good. So I agree. I own that on Blu-ray. Film Kid, I know about Boogie Nights and Magnolia. I've just held off on them because of all the sex stuff. I'm probably going to watch Magnolia first. And if I can handle that, watch Boogie Nights. Boogie Nights, to be honest with you, it's about the pornographic industry, but there really isn't that much sex, to be honest with you. But I understand where you're coming from because I grew up in a very religious household. So like going into Boogie Nights, I thought that it was going to be like a sex fest, but it really isn't. Like there's some scenes of like kissing one up, but it's not really it's not gratuitous in my opinion. Can't articulate, Chad. You heard that Daniel Day-Lewis on retiring for another movie. Yes, I did, and I am so happy. He's my favorite actor, as some of you probably know. So I am so excited. I can't wait to watch it. And just the fact that his son is also going to be involved with it, I'm very curious to see if he's like a chip off the old block, so to speak. Because if so, I'm excited. Let's see. Andrew Lay, I recommend Boogie Nights and Phantom Thread from PTA for you at Film Kid. Yes. Tyler Van is in the chat. Hey, chat, how are you doing? Good, man. Dude, how are you doing? It's been a little bit. I think what was it? 3-4 weeks ago, I think you were in the live stream. But I hope you're doing well, man. Have you seen any good films lately? Especially, I know that we're in the month of October. Have you seen any good horror films? I'm always down for recommendations. I have a list of horror films I'm planning to watch this month, but I'm always willing to try to add to that list. Film Kid, I felt like the movie dipped down a little bit after the first musical number in the TV room. That's the problem. I think that because there's so much emphasis on the musical numbers, the fact that they are kind of forgettable, it's a shame. It really is. David Pictures, I've never seen PTA movie, to be honest. Probably will see There Will Be Blood soon. So it's a shame that you haven't seen any of his films, but I will say, if you've never seen any of his films, I would honestly start with Boogie Nights. Go from Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love, and then There Will Be Blood. Because if you start with There Will Be Blood, it's a masterpiece. It's my favorite of his, but it's just such a different flavor than his first couple films. Because his first couple films, the camera's like constantly moving around. It's like a very fast-paced film like Magnolia or Boogie Nights. But then something like There Be Blood, it's more methodical. Like the camera movement there's a lot of tripod shots. There's not as much camera movement. There's like very subtle camera movement. So I would recommend starting with Boogie Nights. Like that's a great starting point. Let's see. Here we go. Angela, my top three PTA are Phantom Thread, The Master, and There Will Be Blood. Excellent three choices. The Master, I know it has critical acclaim, but that film just doesn't get talked about enough. That's an incredible film. Film Kit and the John Wick re-release is going to have a sneak peek for Ballerina. I hope that movie's good. I really do hope Ballerina's good. I like the Anya de Armas. Ace Bullets, I think John Wick should have just been one movie. Oh, hot take. Although Sergey, who's not on the live stream this time, he would share the same sentiment as you. And I get that, but I will say I do quite like 2, 3, and 4. 3 is probably my least favorite of the John Wick franchise, but I still quite like it. Don't get. I'm going to pick up the Blu-ray too. Both of them, just saving up my money. Smart thinking. Black Friday is right around the corner, so you'll be able to get some good deals. Also, can you tell me if this is an interesting plot? Let's see. A 15-year-old boy dies of food poisoning, and the cops need to figure out whether to murder or accidental. They can't figure it out. So years later, detectives still working on the case. Oh, so you're saying if it was murder or if it was an accident? There has to be some kind of other form of evidence to draw suspicious activity. And the reason why I say that is because food, like if someone dies of food poisoning, nobody's really going to think automatically like, oh yeah, there's a possibility that someone tried to poison. Because food poisoning happens all the time at restaurants, and it's nothing really malicious. So I would say that there has to be some kind of evidence that would make it so that way it's like, oh, is this food poisoning intentional or is it not? But besides that, I do like the idea. David Pictures 3 and 4 are the best ones, to be honest. I mean, I will say, like the fourth one, like that stairwell action scene, just movie magic at its finest. So I do agree. David Pictures, because they have the most action and are the most crazy. And at the end of the day, each film got a bigger and bigger budget, so they still had that like. It's going to sound crazy to say that the John Wick franchise kind of works in terms of like minimalism, but because they work within a certain budget, they have to get very creative. And that first entry started that all. So they were able to implement that to the other movies. And that's why even though they got bigger, they still felt very intimate in the choreography of the action scene, which is arguably the most important part for action film. Andrew Lay, Wolf of Wall Street and Babylon, looking at Boogie Nights premise and being like, cute. Yes, exactly. Like those two films, Wolf of Wall Street and Babylon, those films are like right away within the first 5-10 minutes. It's like, okay, very sexual. And not that I'm complaining. I own both films on 4K. I think they're both great films, specifically Wolf of Wall Street. But yeah, Boogie Nights is very tame in comparison. And I'm saying that again as someone that loves Boogie Nights. But honestly, that film, what's more impactful in Boogie Nights is the violence because it doesn't happen that often. So when it actually does come up, it's like, oh, wow, that was shocking. Tyler Van, yeah, I'm doing good too. Thank you. The last movie I saw was Joker 2. I personally liked it. Do you like Todd Phillips as a director? So firstly, I wanted to say I'm glad that you saw Joker 2, and I am glad that you liked it, especially because I know the movie's gotten a lot of backlash. I felt mixed about it, but I do, like I said, really like hearing that you liked it because I see how much, that movie's gotten like half a star, 1 star in Letterboxd. And I'm like, I don't think that that's necessarily true, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. But like the movie did have some really good craftsmanship in regards to the filmmaking. In regards to Todd Phillips, I've come to terms with the fact that I think he is an okay director. I do have a ranking video for his work. I think he's okay. I do think that his work with comedy has been implemented in terms of his dramatic work too. And I do think that sometimes that kind of lessens his quality. Like Joker, I like it, but I do think that some of that movie does kind of feel aimless. And the second Joker in particular also feels aimless. And that's just like his comedic work, like the Hangover movies where it's like, people are just doing things and it just doesn't really tie into anything. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I am curious to see what he's going to do after this because I'm wondering if he's going to be in director jail after blowing $200 million and not getting that money back. We'll see what happens though. Film kid, whenever there's nudity in movies, I just look away, and so it just depends how much is in it. If there's too much, I normally hold off. I get that, man. I grew up in a religious household, so believe me, I of all people get that. Can't articulate licorice pizza was great. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a big fan of licorice pizza. I thought it was solid, but that was one of those films that I saw a second time, hoping that my rating would go up, but it didn't. It just kind of stayed the same. So I don't know. Maybe my rating will go up over time. I'm hoping though. Let's see. Can't articulate what other movies should have gotten a sequel in your opinion. Joker did not need one. There's a lot. If so, I guess the first one I'll say is The Exorcist. I don't think there should have been any sequels. That movie works so well on its own. I will also say that. Should I say it? I guess I'll say it because it's technically had sequels, but it also has had prequels. Rosemary's Baby. I think the fact that that had a prequel is just so frustrating. Um, Stuff like that. There's just a lot of movies where I'm like, I don't think it should have gotten a sequel. The original stands on its own. So those are some of the ones though. Film kid, there is evidence, but the film ends up getting made, and I want to keep that a secret. Oh yeah, for sure. Don't spoil anything. I've seen Babylon, so I think I'm good for Boogie Nights. Yeah, you'll be fine. Like I said, Boogie Nights seems like a kids movie compared to Babylon. Babylon it's a degenerate movie, but it's a good movie. Film kid, I gave Joker 2, a 3.5. That's fair. You guys know me. I have a very a broad spectrum of ratings. Mine is like a 2.75 out of 5. But though I do play around with like 2.5 out of 5. I can't articulate. Yes, wow, platinum. Yo, dude, Aubrey Plaza, man, in Megalopolis, like that was something. That was something. Andrew Lay, some people don't like licorice pizza for being anti-Asian. I don't know how to react as PTA's Asian fanboy. Wait, is that true? Wait, why was the movie anti? Why did people think that the movie was anti-Asian? I'm actually very curious about this, Andrew. Let me know in the comment section because I did not know that. I know that the movie when it first came out, people were talking about the age gap, and I like that when that came out in Red Rock, it came out at the same time. I was like, I better stay off Twitter because I know that there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. Tyler Van Film Kid, same. Film Kid, I specifically like Babylon because it was a love letter to cinema. Yeah, honestly, that last scene of Babylon was really good. Tyler Van, speaking of jail director, is there a director you can think of that you want to see make a comeback? Wait, then he says, "Sorry, director jail, not jail director." No, I know what you meant. I'm trying to think. Let me think. I guess it's kind of cheating, but Marv and I were actually talking about this today because he thinks that Todd Phillips is going to be in director jail, similar to how apparently David Gordon Green is in director jail. But we were talking about A Cure for Wellness, which great film, highly recommend it. We were talking about how Gore Verbinski is apparently in director jail, but he is doing another film that's coming out next year. So I do think that I guess I kind of wish I didn't know that, but he was a director that when I was watching A Cure for Wellness the other day, I was like, I hope he makes another film. And then it turns out I found out earlier today that he is. So I would say Gore Verbinski, even though I know that's kind of cheating. But besides him, I can't really think of someone off the top of my head where I'm like, hey, I hope he gets out. I don't know. Director jail is so weird because you can be someone like Robert Zemeckis where you make a bunch of flops and you're still able to get carte blanche of being able to do whatever you want. So it's very weird. Can't articulate. Andrew Lay, yeah, PTA. Had a few unnecessary edgy scenes in Licorice Pizza. I say his criticism is deserved. Interesting. I'm trying to think. To be honest with you, I don't really remember. The only criticism I remember about that movie is the age gap between the two leads. But it seemed like that was kind of the point of the movie. But, you know, what do I know? Film Kid, when we were going to go see Joker 2, which mindful my dad didn't want to go see, I was telling him I need to start working at a movie theater so I can go see the things by myself. Yeah, honestly, years and years ago, like a decade plus ago, I remember I applied to a movie theater. Um, and I don't know, part of me is like, part of me wishes that I did get the job over a decade ago working in a movie theater. But the other part of me is glad that I didn't, because I do think that at first it'd probably be a lot of fun working at the theater, being able to get, free stuff, free access to all these movies and everything. But I also think that it might take away from the actual experience of like going to the theater and just, going there for pure enjoyment. But, you know, Bootzilla, there was a scene in the movie where a couple of white characters were talking in an Asian accent. I think that's what he's talking about. Oh, you know what? I do. I think I know what you're talking about. And for the record, I'm not saying that racism is okay by any means, but I think that what Paul Thomas Anderson was probably going for was like, hey, this is like the time period. This is how things kind of were. But again, I'm not saying it's right, but I think that's what he was going for. Solid film, but yeah, it has its issues. Tyler Van, I might be in the minority, but I would like to see Tom Hooper make another movie. I think after Cats, though, he's done all he's done is commercials. Yeah, I don't think that after Cats, I don't think he's going to get a project anytime soon, which is a shame because it's insane to me to think that at the start of the 2010s, he was at the height of his career. Like he had done John Adams, he got a bunch of Emmy nominations for that show, and then 2010 he did King's Speech, which was a huge box office success, huge. And he got a Best Director nomination, ended up winning, and then King's Speech itself won Best Picture. I don't think either of those were well deserved. I do think that a certain other director and a certain other movie should have won that year, aka Social Network, David Fincher. But it is what it is. But anyways, so 2010 he won director and picture, and then 2019 he made Cats, and Cats like swept the Razzies and was just a huge flop at the box office. So it's very interesting to see that whole story, and that's why Tom Hooper, I did rank his filmography, because it is very fascinating to see his career and how much it kind of went downhill, unfortunately. Angel at Putzilla, the white husband talked to his Asian wife with excessively unnecessary accent, came off as mocking. Oh yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Ace Blitz, the reason Marv didn't make it is because he's obviously watching Alien Romulus again. Of course, he's watching it again and again. It's his favorite movie, honestly. No, it's funny. Marv and I, we were talking because I remember we both said we were on the fence about Joker 2. But now he's like, I refuse to watch Joker 2 because he's like, Todd Phillips is spitting in the fans' faces and everything. And I'm like, Marv, you haven't even seen the movie. You should probably watch the movie before garnering an opinion. Bootzilla at Andrew. Yep, that's it. I couldn't remember exactly because I've only seen it once. Thanks. Yeah, I've seen it twice, but I saw it once in theaters. I think it was at the end of December of 2021, and then I saw it again with my wife a month or two later once it got a Best Picture nomination, and it didn't really stick with me. It really didn't, and I hate saying that because I'm such a Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I am so pumped for his next movie next year. The fact that I think it's Warner Brothers is giving him like $150 million budget is just insanity to me. But I hope that he makes a really good film, because I want Paul Thomas Anderson is very well known in like the film circle, such as all of us in this group chat. But I feel like he's not a household name yet, the way like Nolan is or Spielberg. But I'm hoping that this next film that he does next year solidifies him as a household name. Fingers crossed. Film Kid Chad, I showed one of my friends the clip of the guy drunk reacting to the 2019 Best Picture winner. Oh, dude. Oh, you mean Robert Storms? Holy cow. Yeah, yeah, let's just say he'll never be on my channel. Can't articulate. I don't blame Marv. Alien Romulus is the best movie since The Trip to the Moon when it came out in 1902. Film kid. I might watch Gone Girl with my dad soon. That will be a very interesting. That'd be a very interesting experience. Can't articulate. John Adams was good from the episodes I've seen. I may have to watch it all. Yes, it's such a good show. I would highly recommend it. Honestly. Angela, I worked at a cinema before at Film Kid. Cool experience, cheaper snacks and tickets, endless sneak peeks, fun times. I've heard that. Actually, ironically, Marv used to work at a movie theater. In fact, him and I, we met and became friends in 2018. Towards the end of 2018, he started working at the theater that we met at, AMC Neshaminy. And then he worked there for, I want to say, a year. And then when the pandemic happened, that's when he stopped working there. But he told me a lot of interesting stories. But he also really liked, the experience overall. David Pictures, Alien, Mid Romulus. Oh, I love that. Also, David, I want to say thank you very much for being a Patreon, which if you guys aren't Patreon just yet, would really appreciate you guys being them. But David Pictures, I really do appreciate it. That's why he has the symbol right there. And also that's why I immediately, when he comments, I have to immediately address his comment because he is a Patreon. It's one of the perks of being one. Let's see. I have to go back to the comments. Here we go. Ace Palettes. Another thing I find great about The Sopranos is Tony is such a terrible person, but then he has certain moments where they still somehow make him likable and you feel bad for him. Yeah, he's very human. I mean, everyday life we meet people where it's like they might have some redeemable factors. I mean, I would argue that everybody has redeemable factors, but some people have things that might make them less of a good person in the eyes of other people. And I think that Tony Soprano does have that human nature where you understand where he's coming from, even though a lot of times he's irrational, especially towards his wife. But yeah, he is very interesting. I'm curious to hear how you like the other seasons, but I really want you to continue watching Hannibal, man. It's so good. Bootzilla, Terry Gilliam, does he count as director jail? If so, I'd like to see him come back. Honestly, I would say he's in director jail because he made a movie. What was it? I think it was like 8, 9 years ago, and it flopped hard at the box office. And he hasn't done anything since. So I think that would count, honestly. Film Kids asks, what movie is PTA making next year? Let me pull up my list because it's a long title. I forget the name of it. Let's see. Let me go back. I have to go on Letterboxd. Right away, I'm going to say this, but Paul Thomas Anderson's next movie will make my top 10 of most anticipated for 2025. Let's see. So the movie is called The Battle of Bacton Cross, and it stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Chase Infinity, Benicio del Toro, Regina Hall, Sean Penn, Tiana Taylor, Alana Haim, Wood Harris, and a slew of others. So it's got a really good cast, and it's like $150 million budget movie. And Paul Thomas Anderson usually works with like smaller budgets, so I'm very curious with what the script looked like to warrant a big studio saying, "Hey, we're going to give you more than $50 million." Because I feel like even when he first started, I think his budget was like 25, 30 million most. You guys can fact check me, but I'm pretty sure like that's the range of his movies in terms of the budget. So I don't know. I'm very excited to see what he's going to do with a $150 million budget. Film kid, and now I get why you don't drink. Yeah, it's never really interested me, but also I have a lot of health issues, so it's just one of those things where it's just not worth it for me. Like I have psoriasis, and when you look up psoriasis, like things to avoid, alcohol's always the top of the list. Can't articulate. Megalopolis was so terrible, man. I've never been so bored in my life. I nearly walked out when Shia said, pick up my hat." So unnecessary. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like I like that movie. There are some scenes though that were just so hilarious. Like the scene where Adam Driver says, "Go back to the club." Like just the way that he delivered that was just so hilarious. And my friends and I, we've actually been sending like that clip, or we'll just randomly quote it, like "Go back to the club." I just think it's so funny. But it is a very it is a it is a it is a divisive movie though, and I can at the same time see it being a cult classic because it does have that like so bad it's good type quality to it. Film Kid, also, when are you going to show Marv The Shining? So as of right now, we're probably going to be watching it. I think October 27th. But yeah, I'm excited to show it to him. I hope that he likes it. Bootzilla, Gareth Edwards is another one in director jail. I love to see him direct again. Love the Raid movies and his direction, and Gangs of London season 1 was awesome. So Gareth Edwards actually has a new movie coming out. Let me look up the title, but the movie's called Havoc, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, Havoc, directed by Gareth Edwards. It's starring Tom Hardy, and it's about after a drug deal gone wrong, a bruised detective must fight his way through a criminal underworld to rescue a politician's estranged son while unraveling a deep web of corruption and conspiracy that ensnares his entire city. So, not to spoil my top 10 most anticipated of 2025 list, but Havoc, directed by Gareth Edwards, would have made my list. Except I've heard that there's been so many reshoots, so many behind the scenes trouble that I'm like, I don't even know if it's going to be Gareth Edwards' vision. But just know that he's not in director jail right now. He does, in fact, have a movie that's coming out next year called Havoc. So hoping it's good. Because I love the Raid films too. I mean, the Raid 2 is my favorite action film. It's incredible. Let's see. Andrew Lake, something with Leonardo DiCaprio at Film Kid. PT is adapting something from the same author of Inherent Vice's source material. Yep. Ace Paulette's also, I know Marv likes The Sopranos. What's his full take, if you know? So, to be honest with you, we haven't really talked about The Sopranos. Like, we've talked briefly about it, but it's not really a show that we talk about much. In fact, in my circle of friends, The Sopranos only really gets brought up in that Breaking Bad versus The Sopranos is a very popular TV show type discussion. So I'll occasionally have that with friends. But one of my best friends, two of my best friends didn't even finish The Sopranos. Like my one friend got up to season, what was it, 6 of The Sopranos, and then he just stopped. He was like, kind of lost interest. And another one of my friends got up to like season 3 or 4, and he bailed. So it's one of those things where some of my friends like the show, but a lot of them also just kind of bailed on it. So, Marv, I know he likes it, but we've never really talked in depth with it. But to be fair, I'm glad that I had my review for The Sopranos because I don't really remember too much about the show. Like 6+ years later, there's not really much I remember about it. That's why when we talk on the side, we talk about like the seasons, I'm like, I think I like season 3, but I don't really know which season I like the best. Bootzilla, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote was the last film Guillermo directed in 2018. Yes, that's right. And that was a huge flop from what I understand. So I think you're right. He is in director jail. Can't articulate. Now thinking about it, Indiana Jones 4, which stars Shy, also made me walk out. Oh, you walked out of Indiana Jones 4? I have to hear this. What made you walk out of Indiana Jones 4? Not saying it's good or anything. I feel mixed about it, but I am curious to hear what made you walk out of it. Andrew, to be honest, I'm never gonna see Megalopolis, but we'll definitely watch that. Going to the club clip endlessly. LOL. Yes. Oh, such a good scene. Go back to the club. Just the way Adam Driver delivers that, like, so good. Also, there's a scene with Aubrey Plaza and Adam Driver. It's a sex scene, and it's one of those sex scenes I've seen a lot of movies, but I haven't really seen this type of sex scene in a movie. If you've seen Megalopolis, you know what I'm saying. Not spoiling it for those that haven't seen it, but Megalopolis swings for the fences, but it does fail quite a bit. A Split's also without spoiling, which I know you won't. What makes The Sopranos ending good? So earlier I was talking about like Taxi Driver and Fight Club and how one of the things I love about them is the ambiguous nature of those films. And that's one of the reasons why I love The Sopranos ending. It is very ambiguous. It made a lot of people angry, but someone like myself that leans towards ambiguity, I liked how the ending went into that. And it just, I don't know, it's very fitting. Like it matches Tony Soprano's lifestyle to a T. It is a perfect way to end the series. And that's one of the reasons why it's the standout episode, in my opinion. I think The Sopranos finale is one of the best finales of all time. Like, that is the episode of The Sopranos that I think about the most. You know, there's a lot of episodes that I don't think about. Like, in fact, most of the series I don't really. But that I do think about. Film Kid, I want to watch The Substance, but I heard one of the reasons why a lot of people have been given a lower score is the extensive amount of nudity. I mean, it's a body horror film, and it's like it's all about, you know, beauty and like body standards and like, you know, like glamour and everything. So it makes sense as to why it's about, you know, or why it has nudity. I think it's warranted. In fact, I'm seeing The Substance a second time this upcoming weekend. I think it's a great film. And it pays homage to a lot of other films that I also love. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Film Kid, haven't seen Raid 2, but I've seen the first. So the first is good. Raid 2 is a billion times better. And I'm saying that as someone that likes the first Raid. Are you going to go see The Lighthouse in IMAX with Sergey? So I am planning to see an IMAX, but Sergey's not really a fan of The Lighthouse. In fact, a lot of my friends aren't a fan of that film. So I'll probably go see it by myself, to be honest with you. Can't articulate. I was 8 when it came out, so I forgot. LOL. Dude, totally get it. I've only walked out of one movie before, and that was 20th Century Woman. And that was only because the film I saw right before the movie Silence, directed by Scorsese, that movie was just so hard hitting for me, especially like my faith at the time. So it's just one of those films that, because of how hard hitting it was, going into 20th Century Woman, I just emotionally then couldn't handle 20th Century Woman because that movie I was then misinterpreting. So I was like, I'm going to walk out, but I am going to I am going to come back to this movie. So a couple months later, I actually watched the full movie on Prime, and I liked it. I thought it was solid. David Pictures, anybody seen Terrifier 3? Yeah, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the Terrifier series because I haven't seen Terrifier 1 or 2, and Marv and I were actually talking about this earlier, where he was describing it as like a grindhouse type movie, but I haven't seen Terrifier 1 and 2, largely because I've heard that they're so disgusting. And I have to be in a right mindset for that type of horror. So I do want to hear other people's thoughts on Terrifier 1 or 2. Let's see. Film Kid, I've seen a lot of movies. It sounds like something Marv would say. He wouldn't just say that, he would say that he loves that. Angel, like, besides Joker 2 coming out near me soon, I want to watch Are The Apprentice, Lee, Saturday Night, and Gladiator 2. I am with you on all of those. It's funny. Next Thursday, as of the filming of this live stream, I'm planning to do a doubleheader of Saturday Night and The Apprentice, which are two films that, the real life candidates about both movies do not get along, which is why I think that it's so ironic that I'm watching a Donald Trump biopic and a Saturday Night Live biopic. So it's just, I don't know. I think it's kind of funny. I think it's kind of perfect too. David Pictures, I have seen 1 and I enjoyed it despite some negativity regarding it. And I am seeing 2 in a week in theaters and then 3 when it comes out. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've heard the first one, it has a really low budget, but that it does in many ways add to the quality. And then the second one I've heard is a bigger budget and it's even better from what I understand. Let's see. Ace Blitz, I like the sound of the Sopranos ending. You're gonna like the ending a lot, I think. And I also would recommend after watching the ending to look up how people reacted when that came out because people were legit checking their TV to see if the TV, like the power went out. You'll see what I'm talking about when you see the movie. I mean, when you see the finale. Film kid, since I'm guessing you're a Christian like me, is The Last Temptation of Christ overly offensive? So my faith, to be honest, like I was raised as a Christian, but my faith now, I would say I am more so conflicted. Like I don't really have any affiliation. It's just like my political status. Like I'm an independent, which for me I look at it more as like moderate, where it's like I can try to see both sides in regards to the left and the right spectrum of the political scale. So I have that same view on regards to religion now, but I will say I think that faith, religion in particular, is something that's fascinating. Similar to politics, it's two topics that I love. And I will say The Last Temptation of Christ, it's not offensive at all. In fact, it is top 3 religious films of all time for me. I think that film is incredible. And I think it does such a good job of humanizing that story. And it's the best rendition of the story of Jesus, hands down. And honestly, when I did my Scorsese ranking list, what was it, 5 years ago? I said Raging Bull was my favorite, but I go back and forth, like Raging Bull and Last Temptation of Christ. Like I think Last Temptation of Christ might be my favorite Martin Scorsese film. Might be. I think it's a great film. I watch it every Easter. It's an incredible film. East Paulette. I wonder if you would appreciate The Sopranos more, Chad, if you rewatched it. Yeah, so it's funny because my wife and I, we were, discussing a show that we had to rewatch, and it was like either going to be The Sopranos or Breaking Bad. She left it up to me, and I was like, Breaking Bad it is. So once we're done Breaking Bad, we might actually rewatch The Sopranos. We'll see. Can't articulate. I love the Terrifier movies. The tone, atmosphere, and the filter adds to its gruesomeness. The next one comes out on Friday. Would you guys say that I should watch that I should watch them? I'm very curious. Because I don't know. I guess when I heard about the Terrifier films, I was thinking almost like the Human Centipede, where it's just, gruesome for the sense of gruesomeness, which I guess sometimes I can appreciate, but there are other times where I'm just like not really in the right mood, I guess. Like the Hostel movies I just saw, and I didn't get anything from them. So I'm just wondering, are they better than the Hostel movies, or they around the same quality? I'm just kind of curious. Film kid, the bathtub scene of The Shining. Marv is going to take off his hat and all of a sudden pull out a pair of binoculars. It's funny you mentioned that scene because that was watching when again, growing up in a religious household where there wasn't any nudity I was allowed to watch. So I remember when I started watching R-rated films, I was making sure to watch R-rated films that didn't have nudity. But I finally got curious, and so I was like, "Oh, I'm going to watch The Shining." And I remember that scene because I was like, "Okay." And then, if you've seen The Shining, you know what happens at the end of that bathtub scene, and it was like, wow, what an introduction to nudity in movies. David Pictures at Can't Articulate. David Picture also says, at True, hey, I'm good. David Picture also says at True, that's cool. I saw Transformers a week ago. It was surprising how good it was. Yeah, I need to watch that one too. I'm kind of over the Transformer movies. I haven't really liked the last couple, but maybe I'll give it a chance. Yes, you should watch Terrifier. All right, I'm gonna maybe I'll watch it then. Let's see. Film Kid, man, I'm so excited for Saturday night. It looks like a chaotic, fun ride. I hope it is, especially because Jason Reitman, he did not the Ghostbusters that came out this year, but the one from a couple years ago. I was not a fan of that, and it didn't feel like there was any love that was put into that movie. So I'm hoping that this is kind of like a redemption arc, if you will. Speaking of redemption, Andrew Lay also just saw Sing Sing. I read a review saying it's like Shawshank had a baby with Sound of Metal. I throw in Moonlight as well. But of all of these, I thought were solid, yet couldn't care less. I mean, Sing Sing I've heard is really good. I haven't watched it yet though. When it came out, it was only in theaters for a week, and the showtimes just didn't align with my schedule, so I unfortunately missed it in theaters. But I'm hoping to catch it before Oscar time because, from what I understand, it will pick up a bunch of Oscar nominations. The View with Drew. Hey everyone, what's up? He is back. Drew, how are you doing tonight? Can't articulate. Didn't like the series. It was okay, and didn't like the finale. LOL. Just another HBO show I needed to watch to finish my HBO run. Excuse me. That's fair. I like the hot take. The View with Drew. Awesome news today. I saw Transformers 1. Yesterday I saw Joker. Fully I do. I like the sound of that. Can't articulate. I will rewatch like I do with every HBO show. I don't like to give it another chance. Yeah, sometimes a show just requires a rewatch for it to be either solidified that you have a certain view on the show, or sometimes it will be enhanced. I get that. That's happened to me several times. Splits. It's insane some of the stuff that's on The Sopranos. You definitely wouldn't be able to have that now on TV. It really depends. I mean, HBO, I feel like, has always been kind of ahead of the curve. Like, there's still stuff in HBO shows where it's like, oh wow, like they've always been pushing the envelope, which is why I appreciate that. They do the stuff that they do. Speaking of HBO, are any of you guys going to be watching the TV show The Franchise? It's an HBO show. The first episode is tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I am very excited for that show because it is deconstructing the superhero genre. Like, it is behind the scenes look of superhero filmmaking. It's very fascinating. At least it seems like it. And all the creators are ones that I like. One of the creators is the creator of Veep. One of the creators is of Succession. Sam Mendes, one of my favorite directors, the director who did American Beauty, Road to Perdition, Skyfall, Jarhead, among many others. He is also the creator. So it has a lot of creative voices, and it's HBO. So I'm very excited for it. So I need to watch tomorrow. I need to watch the Batman episode 2 because I missed that last week. And I also need to watch tomorrow night episode 3 of the Batman. Not the Batman, the Penguin, as well as the Franchise, the first episode. Angela, funny how the church kind of condemned Scorsese for Last Temptation and let him premiere Silence at the Vatican 3 decades later. It's crazy how times change. It really is. But yeah, I kind of wish that I was alive when The Last Temptation of Christ came out, because looking at the criticisms for that movie when that movie came out, you can tell that people did not watch the movie. That they just might have heard someone say a snippet of what was in the movie and they just ran with it. Because if you actually watch Last Temptation of Christ, it is 100% not saying that, like anything negative. It is a critique, yes, but it is in no way saying anything blasphemous, at least in my eyes. Like, when I watched that movie for the first time, I was like, why was this controversial? There's so much love and care put into this movie. You can tell that Scorsese himself was grappling with this faith. And that's why Silence he made 3 decades later, because he's still grappling with it. And even more so now that he's gotten older. So I love that. I really do. Splits, HBO is the GOAT. Yeah, they really are. I mean, they're very consistent with what they put out. I really do love their stuff. Yeah, like right now, I'm rewatching Veep. I'm at season 6, episode 6. It's just great. I mean, I love that show. Film Kid, do you think I can handle Boogie Nights if I've seen American Psycho? Oh, yeah. If you've seen American Psycho, then yeah, you can handle Boogie Nights. No question. Angela, I know Dune 2 probably won't win Best Picture next year because anti-sci-fi bias. But if they don't give it to The Brutalist, I refuse to fully appreciate it, nor are Sing Sing 2 strong contenders. So I think Dune 2, the problem with that film is that it came out too early. I think it will get a Best Picture nomination, but I think that film probably should have got pushed towards the end of the year. So that way it's still in the forefront of people's minds. Because, I mean, October to beginning of January, there's just so many movies that come out that are going to be at the forefront of people's minds. So I think that Dune 2 will pull off a nomination. But I don't even think it's necessarily the sci-fi bias. I just think it's more so the fact that it came out such a long time ago. I think that does play a lot into it. I mean, there are there are exceptions, of course, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. But like you think about a movie like Parasite, one of the reasons why I won Best Picture was because it came out in October of 2019, so it was able to steamroll the last couple months and build momentum, as opposed to something like Dune Part Two. It's been, people look at it as a really good movie, but it doesn't have that like build up of like, oh my goodness, like give it Best Picture already. So I think that that's kind of what's holding it back. Let's see. Got to go to David Pictures at Film Kid. Gene Dealman. Let's see. Ace Bullets. I really would be interested though, Chad, to see that HBO ranking. You should definitely make a video. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna write that down actually right now because you're right. I do like that idea. Let me say. The only thing is that people that are following me on my channel don't understand that it's me ranking the HBO shows that I've seen. But I feel like outsiders that aren't subscribed to me, they're going to be like, wait a minute, you haven't seen every HBO show? And it's like, no, I haven't yet. I'm going through them, but I haven't seen everyone. I've seen a bunch, though. HBO show ranking video. All right, so I have it written down. Can't articulate FX as the GOAT. FX is really good. I do have to give them props. Like they have a show like Fargo, which I do love. So I can respect that. Angela, yes, you can see I love epics. I mean, hey, epics have won in the past. Oppenheimer, Lawrence of Arabia. It could happen. Film Kid, what criterion should I pick up in the sale in November? I always recommend in regards to first pickups. I would recommend Mulholland Drive. That's usually the go-to. I'll say to people where it's like, "Hey, you should pick this up." Last Temptation of Christ. If you are religious, I would recommend you pick that up because it is a great-looking Criterion, and also it's a very effective film. Like I love it. Film Kid. There's this app called VidAngel, and the first time that I watched American Psycho, I watched it on there. But the second time I watched it on Blu-ray. I was traumatized. VidAngel sounds very familiar. That sounds a lot like ClearPlay. Let me look into this because, like I said, I grew up in a religious household, so we had something called ClearPlay that would remove. Let me go through the list. It would remove language, violence, sex, nudity, consumerism, and smoking. So, as you can imagine, a bunch of movies that I would watch would be instead of 2 hours, it'd be like an hour. Okay, so VidAngel, it sounds a lot like, yep, VidAngel sounds a lot like ClearPlay. Yep. So, as you guys can tell, based on how I grew up, I'm not for censorship. So, I don't know. It's funny though because I still like I used to buy some edited movies, so I still have some of those edited movies, but I think that a director's vision should be shown to its fullest, and I think that editing it out dilutes it. Can't articulate. I only have Cinemark Theater Memory, so I haven't even watched Sing Sing yet. I would think though that Sing Sing would be at Cinemark though, right? Like I feel like Cinemark's more of like smaller scale, right? Like they get a lot of smaller stuff. Or am I mistaken? Mario Smash 2000. What are your thoughts on the trailer for Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler, which is a horror period film set in the 1930s, which is a vampire movie? I can't wait to watch it on March 7th, 2025. I did not know it was a vampire movie. So I did see the trailer and I thought it was very refreshing seeing a big budget film that's shot on film. And I am a fan of Ryan Coogler. I think that he has yet to make a bad movie, in my opinion. So I'm very excited for it. I didn't know it was a vampire film though. I didn't. I saw the trailer and I saw it as a moody mystery horror film, but I did not know it was a vampire film. But I'm very excited to check it out. It's one of those films that I think it's going to make my top 10 most anticipated for next year. A Splits AMC is pretty great as well. I think AMC, the two shows that stand out are Mad Men and, of course, Breaking Bad. Can't articulate at Film Kit. I'm going to get the rest of the David Lynch 4K criterions for November. Yeah, Inland Empire, I would recommend if you're a fan of Lynch. If you're not a fan of Lynch, I wouldn't bother with it because it's something. Ace Blitz, thanks for writing the recommendation in chat. Dude, of course. I like the idea, and I also like hearing from my subscribers of like the type of videos that they want to see. I do try to, focus on movie lists and TV show lists because at the end of the day, I feel like those are the lists that people want to see the most of. Like I know movie reviews are what started my channel, but at the same time, I know that that was back in 2015, and at this point, the market for movie reviews is kind of oversaturated. So that's why I've kind of leaned more towards like ranking lists, top 10 lists, because it's not quite as saturated. And at the same time, I also have some list ideas that I don't really think people have done before. Like the one you mentioned, the HBO one. I mean, that's something I don't really think I've seen before. And there's also one list that I'm very excited to do that I don't think I've seen before is top 10 movies that I want to love but don't. That video I'm excited to do. That's probably going to be a long video though, because it's me breaking down as to why I wanted to love a certain movie and then say, but I didn't love them, and this is why. Film Kid, should I get the Videodrome Criterion if I can find it? Yes, the Videodrome Criterion is incredible. So, the movie, without spoiling what it's about, a lot of it has to do with a VHS tape. And what's cool is the Blu-ray or 4K, whichever you get, looks like a old VHS tape. It's really cool, and also has like one of the taglines from the movie itself. It's a really cool looking Criterion. I am planning to rewatch that film this month because I do love Videodrome. I think it's one of my favorite Cronenberg films and just favorite horror films in general. Can't articulate. I'm still waiting for Gladiator 2. I'm glad I'm not the only one that's excited for that film because I am ecstatic for it. I usually try to avoid trailers, but I've seen both trailers for that film, and I am super excited. And I like the fact that Maximus in the original was someone that was a general and then became a slave. So I like the fact that the sequel has it where there's one character that is a slave and another character that's a general. I think it's a nice nod to the original, whilst at the same time creating two different characters now. So where we don't really know which character is going to, have the Maximus kind of arc and which is going to follow a different direction. I think at least. So I'm excited for it. I really am. Mario Smash 2000. Also, I'm looking forward to watch Saturday night when it gets a wide release on October 11th because I love watching movies that are based on true story. I'm with you. Are you going to be watching Mario Smash 2000? Are you going to be watching The Apprentice? I'm very curious because that's also coming out October 11th. I was saying earlier, I'm going to try to do a doubleheader of those two movies. David Pictures, will you watch Gene Dealman, Chad? Let me look it up. That movie sounds familiar, but I need a refresher. Let me see. Wonder if I have it on my watch list. Gene Dealman, 23. Oh, this was the movie that. Oh, this is the movie that's like the day in life of a house, not a house cleaner, but a housewife. I don't know, man. So I know that's a Criterion movie, but like I don't know. Like that's one of those movies similar to like Santiago where I've pushed it off for a long time because I know it's very challenging from what it seems like. It's a very challenging movie. So I just have to be in the right mindset. But maybe I'll watch at some point. Film Kid says I released my Wes Anderson on Monday. I meant to say Wes Anderson ranking. Oh, cool, man. Wes Anderson's having another film coming out next year too. One of my favorite directors. Hey, Splits, did you know Vince Gilligan is making another show with the same actress who plays Kim? Not the same universe, though. Pretty sure it's going to be a sci-fi. I heard rumors of that. I'm curious with when that will come out because I'll definitely check it out. Like I think Vince Gilligan has definitely proven himself to be a very competent creator. He's really good. Angela, what got me to see Barbie was my birth country, Vietnam, banning it. Ended up hating the movie though. So though I didn't like Joker 1 as much, I'm convinced to check Joker 2 out because the hate for it. I'm very curious. Why did Vietnam ban Barbie? Like Barbie's a pretty tame movie, I feel like. Like it's only PG-13, and it's a very I think it's a very safe PG-13 rating. Like it's nothing explicit in that movie. I'm very curious what was so bad about it to get not censored, but banned altogether. Like banned movies like Salo, I understand, or Pink Flamingos, like I understand to an extent. Something like Barbie, I don't really understand. Mario Smash 2000. Also, I heard that Edgar Wright's next film is a remake of The Running Man coming out next year on November 21st. I did hear that he's remaking that, but I don't know how I feel about him doing a remake because although I haven't seen Running Man, full disclosure, I kind of wish that he was doing another original movie because I feel like that's what he thrives on. But I'm at the same time very curious to see what a remake's going to look like. What I'll probably do is I'll probably watch The Running Man for the first time in preparation for watching his rendition of it. Splat's also the guy who made BoJack is making another animated show, different universe as well. I did not know that. I'll definitely check that out then too, because we've talked about it before. I love BoJack Horseman. I think that's a great show. Really sad, very very emotional. Also, guys, I know that normally I do like 2 to 3 hour live streams, but this time around I am only going to be doing for like an hour or so. So like right now, I've been on for an hour 17. So I'll take a couple more questions that you guys might have, and then I'll end for tonight. But don't worry, next week I'm gonna try to do full 2 3 hour live stream, and also I'll try to have like Marvin Sergey on it, or maybe even another fellow YouTuber. I am gonna try to get either Anthony or Larry. Those are two people that I'm pretty close with in the YouTube community. So maybe I'll try to get one of them. There's someone else that, without saying their name just yet, there's someone else that I might get on the live stream at some point too. But yeah, I'll take any other questions like next couple minutes. But I do have a couple more comments. Let me get to that. Indrelay, there was a fake world map in Weird Barbie's house that the Vietnamese government interpreted to be pro-China and a territorial dispute. Oh my goodness, really? That's silly though. Like I don't mean it to be disrespectful to another country, but it's just I don't know, like especially because it's in the background. That's like when Disney was saying Star Wars 9 that they were being like quite progressive because they have a gay character and it was like somebody was in the background. It's like something in Barbie's house. It's in the background. Like nobody's gonna notice it unless you're doing like frame by frame. David Pictures, will you eventually make a Discord? So I was thinking about it. I do know, like a couple other YouTubers that I know that do it. I know that they have it where they pay their like they have their subscribers pay for it. So I think that's one of the things as to why I'm kind of conflicted on it because right now, as you guys know, I have a Patreon, and I'm like, at the end of my videos, I'll say like, oh, if you want to be a Patreon, like, you can do this, this, this. But at Discord, if I were to do it, it would probably be like, hey, I think $5 a month. I would say something cheap, but at the same time, I want to make it worth your guys' time, meaning where it's like, hey, it would be a balancing act because like right now the live streams, I think I might have said it in one of my most recent statuses that live streams eventually might be where it's only for Patreons, but I haven't gotten to that point because I'm like, I like how each live stream that I do, you guys are interactive, and I appreciate that. But I'm like, yeah, but if I'm asking people to pay for it, then it's like it's probably not going to be as interactive, and so it's like I don't know. So it's just I'm kind of conflicted, like just charging people that kind of stuff. But Discord, I would because it's one of those things that I know it's a lot more work to do from what I understand as opposed to live stream. So I don't know. I'm conflicted about it, but maybe I'll do it. I'm also not as like I know about Discord and I do have a Discord, but I'm not as tech savvy with that just yet. So maybe I'll have to get more tech savvy doing that. It's not a bad idea. But that's what I'm saying. I'm conflicted with that in particular. Let's see. Ace Paulettes. BoJack was very depressing. Depressing. Yes. Yeah, it is. But it's very therapeutic too, especially towards the end of that show. Bootzilla jumping off. Great stream, Chad. Have a great night. Good hearing from you, Bootzilla. Ace Paulettes at Discord would be great. Film kid, I thought about rewatching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's such a fun film to rewatch. I need to rewatch that. Can't articulate. See you, Chad. Good seeing you, man. Angela, also from what you said earlier about rewatching Licorice Pizza, I felt the same rewatching Joker 1. Solid. Ratings unchanged. Joker 1 since the number 18 on my 2019 list. Yeah, Joker, I don't even know if it made my honorable mention list for 2019. Like it's I've always thought it was kind of solid. Like actually no, that's a lot. When I first saw it, I loved it, but each time I saw it in theaters, like the rating went down more and more. Ace Bloods Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is fun. Yeah, I would recommend Once Upon a Time in America. That's an incredible film, masterpiece. Once Upon a Time in the West, also masterpiece. David Pictures, well, it was a good stream. I got to go now. Hope everyone here has a good day. Yeah, David, really appreciate your support. I appreciate all of your guys' support. I am glad that you guys, tune in. I'm very appreciative of you guys. And I just want you guys to know, you guys can always comment away on my reviews. Like, I really do love hearing from you guys. And I like interacting with you guys. And I like hearing your perspectives on things. Because that's, as I always say in my videos, film's subjective, and it's good to hear different point of views. Angel Layoff says, all right, going to see Joker too soon. See you, Chad. This, what I'll do is I'll end it now. I just want to say, guys, like I said, I appreciate hearing from you, all you guys, and I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday. And I look forward to live streaming next week. Like I said, I'm going to try to do, 2-3 hours next Saturday. So stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys have a good rest of your Saturday, and I look forward to seeing all of you guys, in your reviews on Letterboxd. I will catch you guys later.